Hi, my name is Tina, and today I'm going to talk to you about reading charts. You will notice that I have a chart here, and it might look like it is complete gibberish to you. If you have never knit from a chart before, this can be very confusing and intimidating. But I'm going to show you today how really it's not that difficult at all. You might see a chart like this and not know what all these symbols mean if it's the first time that you have knit from a chart. But most patterns will also come with the key as to what each character means. For instance, if we look at here on line number 11, you see a blank space right here. But if you look at the key, a blank space means that you're going to knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side. So you have to decipher each one of these different symbols and to determine how the chart is read. So for instance, on line number 11 here, we have a knit 1, 2, 3, and then we have a new symbol here, which if we come down here, it's a knit 2 stitches together, followed by a yarn over, and then knit 3 stitches, another yarn over, and then here's another new symbol, which is a slip slip knit, and then 3 knit stitches, a knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 3 stitches, yarn over, slip slip knit, and then knit 3 stitches. Now, some designers will also write out all of that information, but to look at a written out instructions, you can't see where these stitches are going to line up with one another. That's why charts are so much easier to look at, because you can look at a chart and see if what you're looking at is how your knitting is showing up. So let me just show you, this chart here shows you 2 repeats up. So let me show you what you probably will see in a written pattern. So here is just 1 repeat. So I'm going to show you this repeat plus the knitting that I have here. And you can see how everything is coming together. You see some yarn overs that come down like this, that looks like a V. And look, you have yarn overs in a V here. So you can look at visualize what you're looking at. If you just saw, knit 5 stitches, yarn over, slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, you wouldn't know where those stitches are lining up. And again, if we look back at this chart, you'll see that if you follow this symbol up, they stack on top of one another each time. And if we look at the knitting, you will see that stitch is directly above the other stitch. So it's very easy once you learn how to look at the symbols on the chart and then on the knitting as well, to be able to read your knitting and the chart and know if your lace is getting off key. I'm going to show you a couple other charts as well. This, like I said, this is the same repeat stacked on top of one another. But you might also see something that looks like this. This is the same repeat again, but there's this yellow area. And what this yellow area is, or it might be gray shaded or what have you, this is a repeat section. So for instance, this knitting that I have here, I cast on 23 stitches, which is how many stitches are in this piece. But if I wanted to increase this piece, instead of having it 23 stitches across, I could add 10 stitches, because that's how many stitches are in this shaded area, which would be the repeat section. So for instance, if I'm looking at this and I'm going to cast on 33 stitches instead of 23 stitches, my row would be knit 5, yarn over, slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, yarn over, then knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then instead of moving on to this section, I would go back and knit this again for those extra 10 stitches. And then once those extra 10 stitches are knit, then I would move on and knit the last few stitches here. And that would be the same for both rows. I have also shown on this chart that I have both odd and even rows. And on the even rows, you'll notice that there's no symbols. There's no symbols on those even rows. So those are usually going to be purl back when they're shown like this. But you might also see a chart that looks like this, where you only have odd rows, which means that you're still working the odd rows on the right side, but you still have to do a purl back row on the wrong side. And usually most patterns will designate that, but if you see a pattern that only has even rows, then you know that there's a different row that's on the back side that's usually either all knits or all purls or what have you. So let's go back to this chart again. So we have our even rows. Now let's say, for instance, there were symbols on these even rows. Okay? In this particular case, there's not, but let's pretend that there are. On an odd row, you work from right to left. On an even row, you're going to work from left to right, because when the work is facing you, this is the right side, and you work your stitches from right to left on the right side rows. And on the wrong side rows, your work is facing away from you, so you're going to be working backwards. In this case, it's all purls, so you don't have to pay too much of attention. But if, for instance, there was some extra symbols on that row, you'd have to work from the left to the right instead of the right to the left in that particular instance. And here is another chart that I just want to show you. Again, this is the shaded area. Here is just designating that if we were to add that other section. So for instance, here is our 10 stitch section that we've duplicated. We have it here, and then we have it here. So here's the first few stitches, and here the first 10, and then the second 10. And if you added another 10 and you wanted to cast on 43 stitches, then you would have yet another repeat here. Again, when designers write patterns, they don't put all the different repeats in there. They usually will show it like this, and then if you cast it on 33, then you would do this twice. If you cast it on 43, you would do this 3 times, and so forth. And I want to show you again the charts with the knitting. Let me take these out of the way. And how you can tell where you are based on the chart. So we have our chart here. And here is, again, the knitted section. And it just so happens that I ended on row 8 of this section. So I can go ahead and start again on row 1. Because what a designer will also do is they won't stack the charts if they're just stacked on top of one another. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're looking at here. So we're going to knit 5. Okay, and then we have the yarn over, and then the slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over. And again, you can see that that stitch is going to line up right over top of the previous stitch like that. So we have slip 1, knit 2 together. I'm sorry, forgot to do my yarn over. So we'll do a yarn over first. Then we have slip 1, knit 2 together, and then we're going to pass that slip stitch over. And again, if we look at this that stitch lines up directly over top of the previous one from below. Then we have a yarn over, and we're going to knit 7. And again, we're going to do that stitch again. Here we have our previous double decrease. And if we follow that right up this row of stitches, that's going to be the center of the double decrease, that middle stitch. So we'll do a yarn over, slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, yarn over, and then knit 5. And then you would purl back on the next row. Okay, so I went ahead and I purled back, and then I knit the next 2 rows so that I could show you how to visualize where you might make a mistake. And I did make a couple of mistakes in the next row on purpose so that we can look at our knitting and then look at the chart and see where our problem lies. So, here we are now on row 5. So we have a knit 2, followed by a knit 2 together. And when we get to the knit 2 together, you'll see we've missed a yarn over from the previous row. You can see here, the yarn over is supposed to be right here. If you look on this side, there's the yarn over, but on this side there's no yarn over. A yarn over is very easy to fix. The yarn over should be right here in this spot right here, because this is our purl back row, this bar here. So in order to pick up that yarn over, all you're going to do is slip your needle right underneath that stitch and then pull it through another stitch from that purl row back. So then we've created that yarn over there, and then we can keep working. Now, that stitch will be a little bit tight, but once you soak and block out your knitting, it should straighten things out a bit. So we're going to continue over, and here's our yarn over, and this is from the previous row, so the stitch right above, and then we're going to have another yarn over directly next to that, and then we're going to have a slip knit. We will knit 1, and then we have a knit 2 together, and there's that yarn over. So the yarn over there's the yarn over here, and the yarn over is from down here, so the yarn over is going to go right there. Then we're going to knit 5, and we've missed another yarn over, so we can't even knit 5 because we've lost a yarn over here. We need to pull that yarn over up, same thing as before. So if I lay this flat for you, here's your yarn over. So the next yarn over needs to be directly next to it here. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull that stitch up, and then we'll knit it. That will be number 5. But then we have too many stitches here at the end, because the previous row we were supposed to do a slip knit, and we didn't. We were supposed to do a slip knit and then knit 3, but we have 5 stitches left over. So in order to fix that, we need to drop these 2 stitches off of the needle, drop that down, take out that purl row, and pick those stitches back up onto the needle. We actually dropped down 2 rows. You'll see there's 2 bars here behind, and we'll do a slip knit just like we're going to do it, and we'll pick up the first bar. It's kind of hard for me to show you, but it's this bar right here that we're trying to pick up. So we're going to go here, and then we're going to pick that up and knit that through. Okay, so then we have the slip, slip, knit, but then we have to knit the purl part too, so we have to pick that up also, and then pass that over as well. So there you go. And that, when you have to combine stitches like that, it'll feel a little bit loose, but again, once you block it out, you should be fine. And then we can go ahead and do our yarn over and then knit. Yarn over and then slip, slip, knit again, because we're still decreasing again here. And then knit 2, which is how the chart is written. So now if we look at this on our cable, oops, and I forgot my yarn over again over here. If I look at this now, I see my 1, 2, 3 yarn overs on this side, and 1, 2, and again, I missed the yarn over there. Now sometimes what I'll do is if I notice it before I go to do my purl, I will put a stitch marker here, just one of those locking stitch markers, and then I can just go ahead and pull that bar up when I'm doing my purl row instead of waiting until I get to the next knit row. But I can actually visualize the knitting and the chart and see that everything is lining up or not lining up, and if I've missed a yarn over or what have you. Also, if you're doing a chart with multiple repeats, for instance, let's go back to this chart here. If you're doing a chart with multiple repeats and you have 10 stitches, you can put your stitch markers at those 10 for that repeat. So then you know, do a repeat and then you have a stitch marker, and then a repeat and a stitch marker, and a repeat and a stitch marker. And then when you get to your last stitch marker, then you know that you need to do the rest of that chart. So that is the information that I have for you on chart reading. I hope you found this informational, and if you have any questions or didn't quite understand something that I presented here today, please feel free to get in contact with me at bloomingknitter@gmail.com, and I will be happy to answer your questions. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.